Chuck. Tingle. Chuck. Tingle. Chuck. Tingle. Chuck. Tingle.
Hello, I'm Fiona Bruce and welcome to
the Chuck Tingle Book Club.
Oh, yeah. Well, hello and how do, true buckaroos, and welcome back to Pot Topic Podcast, Chuck Tingle Book Club. I am your resident Chuckademic, Taz, and with me, I've got this guy.
I'm Tom. Says so. Just there.
Just there. It's just, oh yeah. You can also see it down in the
doobly-doo. It might sound like I'm saying Tom, but I'm actually saying Tom.
Ah, yeah. See, very similar with me. Like it looks like mine is written Nancy, but it's in fact pronounced Nancy.
Perfect. And I think we've kind of got to the bottom of what today's story is all about.
Oh, have we? I don't know. Do you like rambling messes? Because
because Tom's drinking moonshine and we're about to talk about a book. Yeah.
Oh, some of that home-brewed chocolate milk, eh? I love it. All right, go on then, Tom. Do you want to give us the Tomnopsis of what we've been reading? What have we been reading?
So yeah, this, as you can see, right in the middle of us, Tara, and you silly sausage.
Oh, I always forget it's right there.
It's right there.
Silly.
So yes, we are this time on the book club analysing Seduced by the handsome physical manifested sound that some people may hear as Yanny and others hear as Laurel. God, that is really hard after a mouthful of moonshine. Okay, strap in, folks. Here we're in for a bumpy ride. We open.
Oh boy.
We open on an office high above Sunset Boulevard. Wait a sec. There is something going on with the sound, which I am just about to correct. Cool. There we go. We open on an office high above Sunset Boulevard. The big sunset, the whole tamale, the large LA bit, the windy wafty.
All right. You started to get a bit creative with your Tomnopsises. I like it. Let's do this.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you approve. A big client is coming to Sunset PR where Rippy, our protagonist, works. The firm specializes...
By the way, when you read this book, did you always kind of, anytime you read his name, just pronounce it with an Australian accent?
Rippy?
Rippy? Rippy? The new client's coming through. Would you care to...
You may have knocked down this book a few points on the 4 score.
Oh, no.
So this firm specializes in representing the viral stars, and this big client is the cousin of the blue, black, white, gold dress that everyone knows. The sound file that when you play it, some people hear Yanny and other people hear Laurel. Actually, should I play the sound now?
Yeah, go for it.
Laurel. 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 Laurel.
Wait to hear what the actual name is.
Which one?
Yeah, which one is it going to be? I bet you can't guess. The office is split on what they hear, and they all get carried away like dummies on the internet. Always do about this sort of thing until the big boss, Bob Trepo, yeah.
I read it as Trepo, but Trepo would would work.
Trepo, let's go with Trepo. Tells them all to calm down as they need to make a good impression. Bob picks our boy Rippy to take the lead on this, as Rippy can impress. He feels that Rippy can impress. Sorry, Rippy can impress the sound file. Smash cut. Bob's office, where Bob, Rippy, and the sound file meet. The large blue muscular viral concept exudes natural charm and charisma and is clearly born to be a hit. Rippy's plan seems to be to organise a musical collab with some trend-setting musicians, or at least at first it does. Now, that sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, he's a sound file. Makes perfect sense. Get in there with some of the music shit.
And Rippy's about to become a soundophile, if you catch my drift. So, Rippy soon asks the sound. Sorry, I have to give him his full name. Rippy soon asks the sound that some people hear as Yanny and others hear as Laurel if he's heard of the current events erotic author Chuck Tingle.
Boom. We're right in there.
Rippy,
just straight in with the meta.
Rippy is selling the very book you're reading right now as the PR plot to take the sound file to the next level of fame. Yeah, this is, yeah. That being said, Chuck is writing the story right now as you read it, as it happens. Shit is full on fourth wall busting, meta mangling mode right now. Okay. The sound file points out that this doesn't seem very sexy at all, and I quite agree with him. Just wait till we get out of here, Rippy informs him, the author telepathically slipping him a morsel of useful information to help him secure his client.
Yeah, that's an interesting bit. That
I love that line.
We'll come to that in a bit later.
Right. So the sound file is down. They go to Munch immediately at Bob's request because, quite frankly, being the boss in that situation in the room where these two now characters in a book, or an erotically charged book, are flirting in front of him, is he uncomfortable or is he just egging them on? We're not sure.
He wants to land the client is what he wants.
He wants to land the client, and he wants Rippy to land the client. They go to a trendy restaurant, and Rippy makes small talk about the colour-changing dress, the cousin, as we said before, of the sound file. The dress, in fact, is called Channing. When Rippy asks... It is.
We'll find this in our next book report.
Absolutely we will. When Rippy... Oh, foreshadowing, by the way. When Rippy asks the sound file for his name, doesn't that spoil the mystery? The sound file asks. He's quite right. Laurel, Yanny, what does Rippy want to hear? Laurel, Yanny, Laurel. No, it's Ben.
His name's Ben.
Its fucking name's Ben. Ben plays himself over and over and over again to Rippy until Rippy clearly hears Ben. Rippy's the first person to ever hear Ben's true name. Ben tears up at the sexual tension peaks and transforms into the ache of real, true love. Conversations turn from professional to personal. Rippy takes Ben by the hand and leads him into the back alley, otherwise known as, you guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, while he finds the soundboard button. We're about to enter the pleasure zone, baby.
Take you to the pleasure zone, baby.
Yeah.
Passionate kissing, hands roaming, quickly finding themselves resting upon the handsome wasteful, quickly swelling bulge, transforming into a giant fleshy rod. Mime that cunt. Beautiful. To knee dropping in front of the waveform, pleasure, head tilting, hip pumping in time with skillful hand job, ball cradling, head bobbing blowy, deep throat to the hilt, savouring this explosion of sexual decadence. Ooh.
Oh.
I've got an idea that I'd love to run past you. Strictly professional. Let's hear it. That you shoved that dick of yours in my tight ass. Frantic unbuckling, playful ass wiggling, eyes transfixed on a gorgeous rump, gently and well-paced butt pounding, fine-tuning anal relaxation, hard-loading dock fucking, in-time cock stroking. Now, I need to slow down the action just a little bit because I need to read this paragraph in full.
Oh, okay.
It's
cool.
just too gorgeous. Okay, here we go. Of course, this just kicks my quickly impending orgasm into overdrive, sending me hurtling faster and faster towards the edge of climax. I feel as though I'm an engineer of a runaway train. No way to stop as I careen recklessly onwards. Fortunately, this is a ride that I'm happy to be on.
I mean, I've definitely had orgasms like it.
Coming all over his own arms and legs, Ripley quakes with ecstasy, which I originally read as quacking with ecstasy, which I think is a much better line. Waveform ejects payload into Ripley's butt, filling it to the brim, pearly streaks. Both men collapse to the alleyway floor. They plan on what to do next, realising that they're already on the path of fame, the sort that a tingler brings, the waves of people talking about the book, their reactions to it, the life, the rebirth of the book being read and discussed, that solidifies the passing trend into the annals of history.
And also his name's Peter.
And, oh fuck, you ruined it!
Oh, sorry, dude. I thought you left it too long.
Sorry, I was going for a dramatic pause. I was about to quote the last line of the book, which is, he plays himself one last time, and he suddenly doesn't actually sound like Laurel or Ben or Yanny. He sounds like Peter.
Well, cool. Sorry for jumping on your last thing there. I think,
it's cool.
Just dramatic pauses and what hey, now's not the time for criticism. Now's the time, not for criticism, but an analysis. So here we go. We'll start with a bit of a story. In fact, in 2007, an opera singer recorded 200,000 reference pronunciations for Vocabulary.com. More than a decade later, on the 11th of May 2018, a high school girl listens to one of these recordings and is confused by what she hears. Sorry. The word as pronounced does not seem to match the word as written. After showing this to some friends, she records the clip on her phone and posts it to her Instagram. The next day, a friend of hers posts the clip to the Black Magic Fuckery subreddit, where it's picked up and tweeted by a popular YouTuber. And just like that, the Yanny or Laurel auditory illusion goes viral. As the world is wont to do with dumb shit the internet throws up, this sound clip is soon everywhere. Not just on the social medias, but on internet news sites, in the papers, and even on primetime news. People lose their freaking minds over this sonic curiosity for a couple of days. So naturally, this is fertile ground for Chuck Tingle, man and concept, to get involved in. He releases Seduced by the handsome, physically manifested sound that some people hear as Yanny and others hear as Laurel on the 16th of May. You'll note that is only 5 days after it was first posted, probably only 4 after he first heard it. The question is, what's his angle here? Forget that. What could his angle even be? We know the Doctor likes to tackle weighty concepts in his work, but it doesn't follow that that's all he does. Maybe sometimes the truest buckaroo just likes to let his hair down and have some fun. But, well, there's only one way to know for sure.
He's got props and they're not quite right.
We're gonna have to do the science.
I'm gonna have to buy you a fucking lab coat.
This is a lab coat, damn it, Tom! This is a lab coat for queer science!
I stand corrected.
Part 1. We play with the sound. So, what is all this Yanny Laurel nonsense anyway? To be brief, it's a simple recording of a spoken word that to about 53% of people sounds like Laurel, and to the other 47% sounds like Yanny.
Laurel. Laurel. Laurel.
To be clear on the matter, the sample is a recording of a man saying the word Laurel. However, a quirk of the recording or production, or post-production, created certain distortions to the waveform, meaning that listeners whose hearing range is better attuned to higher frequencies may instead hear an ambiguously gendered voice say the word Yanny. What makes this audio anomaly particularly interesting is that a listener's perception of it tends to remain fixed. This sets it apart from ambiguous image illusions, such as the rabbit or duck drawing, or Rubens' vase, the one where it's either a vase or two people looking at each other. In those drawings, where you may perceive one thing initially, you can pretty quickly learn to switch to another perception of the image and back again. Moreover, such illusions tend to be intentionally designed to produce this effect, whereas the Yanny Laurel effect is entirely unintended. Wired.com's YouTube channel offers a pretty good video conversation with a neuroscientist who explains the effect and what you can do to hear either Yanny or Laurel. It's not something you can do by training your ear, though, but by listening to the sound on different audio equipment, or by listening to the sound pitch shifted in order to bring one frequency or another into prominence. ASAP Science, also on YouTube, goes a step further by playing pitch shifted examples to demonstrate how this works.
Yeah, I did the exact same video, I think.
Yeah, they're good. They're good videos. The method is imperfect. As a Laurel type listener myself, I have yet to hear the Yanny. Even a file that's been pitch shifted to emphasize the Yanny tones to me sounds something closer to Yorley. Then again, when returning to the original sound file, all I hear is Laurel, no matter how many times I listen to the damn thing. What this comes down to is, unlike other illusions where the observer can affect their own perceptions to behold a different interpretation of the objects, with Yanny or Laurel, the best we can do is affect the object itself in order to perceive any illusory difference. The reason for this is quite interesting. In the ASAP Science video, we're shown the work of Brad Story, a professor of speech, language, and hearing, who demonstrates the acoustic profiles of both words are surprisingly similar. This doesn't mean that if you say the word Laurel to enough people that 47% of them will hear you say Yanny. Rather, it took a quirk of sound production and the many variations in human listening to make this discovery. But that said, despite sounding like two very different things, Laurel and Yanny are, to a certain degree, one and the same. Now, I don't know about you, but if anyone was going to make anything worthwhile out of this strange case of duplexity, it's going to be a Taekwondo grandmaster with a PhD in holistic massage. Part 2. Chuck plays with duality. In Seduced by the Hands of Physically Manifested Sound that some people hear as Yanny and others hear as Laurel, the most recurrent theme is that of one thing actually being two, of duality. Our first hint of this comes when our Chucktagonist, Rippy explains that he works for a company called Sunset PR. It makes sense to use a PR firm as a framing device to get our story started. Publicity is all about working with actual people in order to create a public image for them to portray and for the public to consume. That the public image may differ significantly from, or just present a kind of sanitized version of the actual person, creates two different versions of the same person, a duality of the actual and the consumable ideal. I also think that the name of Rippy's firm may hold some significance here. The name Sunset PR could be a simple reference to the fact that the firm is situated on Sunset Boulevard. But given that sunset is the transitional phase between the day-night duality, there's also a suggestion here that Sunset PR operates in that convergence point between the elements of their client's personality that see the public light of day and those parts kept to the personal privacy of nights. And see? Laughing at my hands there.
Yeah, you didn't see my hands where I'm miming stretch to the audience.
Man, this is analysis. It's all about stretching.
Oh, yeah. We know it's all about stretching.
Rippy also goes on to mention that the firm presents its own duality when he tells us that I love having a workplace as casual as this, but the laid-back atmosphere is something of a front. This is later backed up when our fucktagonist Soundwave, that some people hear as Yanny and others hear as Laurel, describes the firm as really professional. So right from the get-go, we have a story about a word that's actually two, visiting a firm with two faces about creating a new public persona. We already got dualities coming out the wazoo, and for most people, this might be enough. But Dr. Chuck Tingle, however, is not most people. Why should characters and other narrative devices have all the fun? Surely the whole damn book and its author can get in on some of that action too.
Oh, and does he?
The messiness arrives as casually as you might expect. Our first meeting with the Yanny Laurel incarnation is all about Rippy laying out a plan for the viral star's continued rise to fame. This starts with vague talk about strategic collaborations with trendsetting musicians. The other pillar of the PR campaign is a book deal, one where The cover is a quickly thrown together layout featuring a handsome hunk standing next to an equally attractive waveform, and the title could be read clearly across the top. Seduced by the handsome, physically manifested sound that some people hear as Yanny and others hear as Laurel. So both the book and the author now exist as entities in our reality and as fictional narrative devices, and quite important ones at that. It's only when Yanny Laurel learns of the erotic situations inherent to Chuck Tingle's work that finally his interest has been piqued. But Chuck then takes this a step further than we've seen before. When Yanny Laurel says of their PR meeting that this doesn't seem very sexy, we have some direct action from the author. Just wait until we get out of here, I inform him, the author telepathically slipping me a morsel of useful information. By this point, Rippy has already explained that Chuck is typing these words coming out of my mouth, which is something we've seen before from Tingle. But actual direct communication, telepathic or not, between writer and subject, that's new.
Baby.
It's not only new, but it's an overt, shameless, and frankly unsporting kick in the trousers to the author-character relationship, and one intended to dissolve that dichotomy into its own duality. That aside, before we go too far down the meta rabbit hole, the upshot of that Chuck book artist art the upshot is that the Chuck book artist art dualities serve as the driving force that leads us into our next scenes, where our story takes a turn for the erotic. By this point, it should come as no surprise that the events that follow are entirely dualistic. The business lunch and loading bay bum loving are two sides of one coin. One of its faces is that of business, and the other that of the personal. But as something being driven by the book in order to create the book, they are completely inseparable, even within the text. The professional-personal line is already blurred, as Yanny Laurel is clear that it's one thing to wow me in the office, but I want to make sure that we can get along personally. And sure enough, the lunch is all about getting to know Yanny Laurel and how Rippy reacts to that. So it's a business lunch as much as it is a lunch date. Once things progress from a meeting of two minds to the beast with onto the beast with two backs,
In an
Chuck
alley.
doesn't let you forget that this entire exchange is part of one whole. It's a deeply personal means of getting down to business, if you will. The request to shove that dick of yours up my tight ass is, as Ricky said, strictly professional, given the context. Without that dick up that ass, there is no book, and the book is one of the main pillars of the PR business plan. The professional and the pleasure here are one and the same. And just to restate that deep dicking duality, Laurel asks, so when do we get to work? To which Rippy reminds, we've already started, I remind him. This is a Chuck Tingle book, remember? Of course, all of this dyadic dizziness emerged from the story elements that are of Tingle's own creation. It only makes sense that he'd extend the same treatment to the subject that inspired it all. The first indication of this comes during the initial meeting of our Chuck and protagonists. Rippy describes the manifest soundwave as both boyish and rugged, two terms that are usually mutually exclusive. But this is just the warm-up. During the business lunch date, a large portion of the conversation is given over to discussing Yanny Laurel's name, of which it's neither. My name is Ben. This is interesting in and of itself, as it seems to support the personal-public persona duality we discussed earlier. Being able to hear the real name of Ben repeated in the waveform to better know the waveform's true self is exactly what would be required of Rippy in order to both properly orchestrate a workable public profile for his client and engage with him on a truly personal level. But we're also taken a level deeper. After lunch is had, fucks are given, and Ben has accepted the duality of his place in fictional reality. He plays himself one last time, and suddenly he doesn't actually sound like Laurel, or Ben, or Yanny. He sounds like Peter. So he's both the Yanny Laurel duality and an individual named Ben Peter, a compound duality. Because at this point, why the fuck not? Part 3. Chuck plays with himself. So, Chuck plays with duality constantly throughout Seduced by the Handsome Physically Manifested sound that some people hear as Yanny and others hear as Laurel. But this is not his only task. It's actually called Ben Peter, yeah. I've already shown how he messes around with the writer-character dichotomy, and more than ever becomes an active character in his own book. And I've mentioned before in another book club about how there's a lingering question mark over the true identity of the author, Dr. Chuck Tingle, PhD. This is explored, again, in Aja Romano's 2016 Vox article, The Secret Behind Internet Erotica Icon Chuck Tingle, His Own Life, may be the best story he's ever written. Anyway, given this question, Chuck's intent behind putting himself in a position to directly communicate with one of his own characters could easily be meant to poke and tease the idea of his own fictitiousness. Or it could just as easily be a product of his actual perception of reality as a multiplicity of separate extant timelines and his own shifting existence within them. The lines here aren't made any clearer when Rippy makes a direct reference to the man Chuck Tingle, not the idea. So, is Chuck having fun with his questionable fictitiousness or playing with his role in the timelines? I'm not yet willing to make a call on this because, darlings, we're here to do science, and science needs data, data, data. This is just one book. Anyway, beyond who or what Chuck Tingle is, I also think there are some moments when Chuck decides to poke fun at what he does. To return to Rippy's PR firm once again, because we obviously haven't talked about that enough, there's a part of me that can't help but wonder if the name Sunset PR is a sly reference to the short half-life of viral stories. In that by the time Chuck gets around to publishing a story on a viral news item, he knows that he's catching its last rays of fame, that its time in the light is almost over and the sun has already almost set on this particular story. In doing this, however, Chuck is fully aware of the part he plays within the viral cycle. Rippy talks about featuring in a Tingle as a way to help get you out in front of an entirely new market. Yet, conversely, we have, I want to give myself over to the sound that some people hear as Yanny and others hear as Laurel. Completely, I want to submit to the sentient viral news stories, every desire. So, to me, that seems like there's some recognition here from the doyen of Dong documents in his role goes both ways in this viral nonsense.
Laurel.
Conclusion. Play on display. If you've managed to get this far and retain any sense of the word duality or its derivatives and what they actually mean, then well done. If you've actually managed to follow the thoughts and have arrived here with the notion that I haven't actually made an argument for what Chuck's been up to in this Tingler, then top marks to you, fair buckaroo, because that's precisely the case. That said, you may have noticed that I've used the word play in each of the section headings, and there's a very good reason for that. What I think we've read here is an example of an author at play. Chuck seems to have been taken with the idea of duality as presented by the Yanny Laurel clip, and then he just ran wild with it. Right from the beginning, this book is so layered with dualities and so many forms and permutations that I can only assume that Chuck is having fun with the very concept. But in reaching into the meta, Tingle brings himself into this study. He pokes fun at his own work, but he also uses it as a way to explore the duality between Chuck Tingle the man and Chuck Tingle the idea. There's some self-indulgence inherent to this, sure, but it's playful and it's fun. That's important, because we tend to play with what we love. So what we have here is an example of joyful self-love, and in that way at least, seduced by the handsome physically manifested sound that some people hear as Yanny and others hear as Laurel, proves love is real. Given I wasn't sure if I was going to add this or not. I've got just an end note. Given all of this play with duality and who like Chuck's role as author, but actually in the book, and I don't know, given everything we discussed and the abruptness right at the very end of that last line of it doesn't sound like Laurel or Ben or Yanny. It sounds like Peter. Now, honestly, I'm not interested in the big question about who Chuck Tingle is. I don't think it really matters that much. But if anybody ever does get down to the bottom of it, this isn't a prediction, but I'm just going to say I wouldn't be surprised if his first name is Peter.
You're putting your money on it.
I'm not putting my money on it, but I
like
wouldn't
the odds.
be. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Taran,
Cool.
that was very well done, mate. That was
Really?
that was a 3-bark analysis. Just so you know.
3 bark.
Yes, this is the unit of measurement that I instilled in the last issue of the Chuck Tingle book club. It's how many times I have to restart the bark song.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. It was a long one. I really wish I could have cut that down some.
It's not the longest.
Oh, good.
I think I've managed 5 at the best of times. But that being said,
Good, sweet crikey.
you know what time it
Yeah.
is?
You know what? Do you know what? I'm going to take all this off because we are done with science.
No, we're not.
Because I know what time it is. No, because what's about to happen isn't science. Fuck!
Laurel. Laurel.
Oh, we could go away!
I am Tingletron,
Satan!
otherwise pronounced
Oh.
book review score robot. All scores are final. Thank you, Horny Human, for joining me this evening.
Do you know what? There's nothing horny about me right now. You just go. Just get out of here. You didn't even sound like a robot this time.
Yeah, no. What are you talking about? I press the button now. Horny Human.
Go. Go.
Alright, I'm off.
Laurel.
Yeah, you better go. I'm going to read that entire essay again. Good grief. Go.
Laurel.
Go. What are you doing? Shoo. Oh, good.
Sorry about that.
Do you know, I love to love. I really do, but
Laurel.
that bucko really gets my goats.
Laurel.
Anyway.
I really like Laurel in the robot voice. That's really good. Anyway, yeah. So this is the point where we break down the book and break it into the GameSpot equivalents that we deem fit and scientific. So we have looking at the tingle, it's the cover art, getting to the tingle, it's the pacing, giving you the tingle, it's the sexiness, saving you some tingle, which used to be value for money, but is now recommendation-ableness. And
Yeah.
Tingle Tilt, which is the reviewer's tilt, which all added together gives us the 4 score. All the previous scores are out of 5. The 4 score is out of 10 because science.
So, well, it is science now because we go to 3 decimal places, and that's the bare minimum for science, as established by I believe it
Our
was
boy
Ptolemy.
Pi. Our boy Pi.
Our boy,
Pie boy.
Doctor Mr. Bathtub Pie.
Okay, so the cover. I mean, it's definitely an alleyway.
Do you know, I don't know if this is a good or a bad. The fact that it's a loading dock is my favorite thing about it.
Yeah.
The boy is pretty.
Do you know what? Peter, Yanny, Laurel, Ben has not got rippling abs, which is the thing that's mentioned most in the book.
It certainly is. And I'm not entirely sure. It's not my flavor of. I mean, this is. I think this is just personal nitpicking now. It's not my flavor of beard on the boy.
Actually, good point. Yeah, it's a little bit. What was that magician's name? David Blaney.
Yes.
He's a little bit Blaney. He's our boy.
I was just about to quote Griffin McElroy there. It's like it's very magical pervert.
Exactly. He hovers off the ground by a couple of inches and shits in a glass box above Trafalgar. So, oh no, South Bank, wasn't it? Beg your pardon.
It was South Bank, correct.
So, what are we going to give this one? I'm going to go for a solid 4.
Well, I'm going to go 3.2. So, mix those up, Tom.
Pause, open bracket 4 plus 3.2.
That's
Divided by
it. Get
2.
really show behind the curtain there.
It's 3.6. So, next we're going to... Sorry, I keep hitting the microphone with my hat as well. I haven't worn a hat for a while. Getting to the Tingle, it's the pacing.
Yep. Pacing...
Decent.
Yeah. It's fine. It was fine. Getting to the... Yeah. It flowed. It flowed perfectly well. It wasn't... I don't know. I hadn't even considered the question before now, and I really should have, because I knew we were doing this. But it's a solid 3 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I was going to say a good 3 out of 5, to be fair. So it's actually 3. We've actually agreed on a score.
Hey!
There we go. So giving you the Tingle's sexiness. Now, alleyway, not my idea of sort of seduction and...
Do you know what? I didn't think it would be either, but...
Really?
The end of that lunch date and the fact that I don't even make it to the car, I found quite hot.
You know what really disappointed me, though?
What's that?
We've had explicit love scenes that have ended up with... I almost want to call them like cast members, background cast members, the extras in the book that have noticed this lovemaking and cheered them on. You looking at like the Bernie Sanders book and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
I was kind of hoping for that, seeing as they kept pointing out like it's a very exposed alleyway and it's all in the open. It adds a bit of risque element to it. But
yeah, but I think it was let's not forget Rippy was in PR.
Right.
Like, you can't start off with a PR disaster or any sort of PR compromise. This is a personal thing to be kept away from the public. It makes sense, and also
but it's already been proven that works for his cousin, so it wouldn't.
I do love the line, and I don't know why. I love it so much, but sorry, gotta do other thing. Jizz erupts hard from the head of my shaft, splashing down across the back alley cement below us in beautiful patterns of white. Now, I thought that was just classy.
Right, apparently, you and me have different definitions of the word classy. Glossy, yes, very glossy.
No, do you know what? I'm gonna go. It was not full 5 on this one. It's Tingle, baby. Still haven't quite got me to a full 5 yet, I don't think. But I'm happy to give this one like a 4.254.
Okay, fine. I'm probably gonna go with a 3.567.
That's understandable.
Because I wasn't really feeling it. It was hot. It's spontaneous. I like that. But I wanted more. I was left wanting more. So that takes that score to a 3.9105 out of 5.
Sorry, how many? 3.91.
3.9105. Be exact.
Ooh,
please,
wow.
Taryn, we're talking about science.
Oh, damn, now we're getting sciencey.
Can you please?
I love it.
All right. Thank you. Right. So recommendation value. So saving you some tingle.
I mean, at the time, it would have been yep. It would have been an absolute no-brainer. It's like, if you're happy to read some ridiculous gay erotica, at the time of this news story. Yeah, no-brainer. A bit of solid 5. I think it's still fresh enough in everyone's mind that you could probably point it. I mean, I'm thinking somewhere in the region of 4.
See, Taran, I think you just hit upon what my big problem with this is. I'd never fucking heard of this thing before reading this book.
Oh, really?
Nope. Obviously, I'd heard of the blue, black, gold, white dress thing. I knew there were many of these things, and as such have ignored all of them since the gold black dress thing.
Well, there actually haven't been that many. This was the only other big one.
Okay.
Somebody did try to follow it up with a child's toy that sounded like one thing or another, but it wasn't very convincing.
So I'm gonna go for an exact 1.999.
Oh, ouch. Okay, cool. And yeah, so I said 4 something. So I'm going to go 4.137.
Also, I'm going to point out that I do actually have a silent keyboard now. I've just not hooked it up. So that is 3.068 out of 9. Out of 5, sorry, beg your pardon. Out of 9? God, that's really going to get signs if we do these things out of 9. And so, we got a very middling score so far. So where's the Tingle Tilt going to take us?
I can't... honestly, and... like, this feels to me one worth reading if you want to get into some of the deep Tingle lore.
Yeah.
But I'd struggle to give it more than about 3.528.
That 3.528?
Yeah.
That's not a bad Tingle Tilt, because remember, like, 1 point in this can push it up.
Yeah.
Quite high. I thoroughly enjoyed reading this book.
I did, yeah. Yeah, and it just wasn't one of the I'll be honest, until I put the work in and like tried to piece together what was actually going on, trying to figure out what Chuck was up to. The ending kind of left me a bit cold. They are just like, it sounds like Peter. It's like, well, what?
Are you kidding me? I fucking love that, because the entire book you point out is this thing of a duality, a characteristic only identified by certain people, each of them defined by their own group. And then at the end he goes, well, you're called Peter and you're called Ben, and it sounds like Peter to me. And it's kind of like, well, the world's all grey, isn't it? It's all just shades of grey. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm going to give it a 4 for that, which
so
gives us a final 4 score out of 10.
Yeah,
6.937. Quite a low scoring book.
Ooh, that feels about right. What's either side of it?
It's just above Eaten Right by the Mysterious S symbol everyone used to draw, which also had the same score as Slammed by the Substantial Amount of Press generated by my book, Pounded in Pound. Just above it in score, let's have a quick gander. We've got The Physical Manifestation of Washing My Hands Gets Me Off.
That is, that feels about right.
Good bedfellows. Good bedfellows. I think that's... Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
That was the most sciencey science we've ever scienced, I'm going to say. That was good.
Oh, man, did I do... Oh, God, let me just... Oh, God, got all the science out of the way. Man, did I do some science? Did we do some science? That was... Crikey.
We are scienced out, ladies and gentlemen. Right, so with that being said, should we wrap this shit up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the amounts of science we've just done have just set new scientist printing presses on fire.
Because all scientists use printing presses, of course.
Yeah.
And so go on then.
Oh, yeah, shit. Hang on, there's a whole sign-off, isn't there? Why do I always forget it? Thank you very much for joining us. Our next book will be... let me just... work up my tingy bob here. It was actually, we've mentioned it a couple of times today, hinted at it. Our next book, if you want to read along with us and join us for the book club proper, will be Pounded by the Gay Color Changing Dress.
We're looking forward to meeting, what was it?
Channing.
Channing. How can I forget that name?
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. Channing, changing. It's good. I like it.
Tatum.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us on this this dyadic thrill ride of dualism. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Love is real, one and all. Love is real.
PodTopicPodcast.com. Done.
There is no love there.
We forgot all that.
It's the wastelands of emotion.
Laurel.
Oh yeah, and also thank you to the dude who put up a 10-hour-long loop of this on the internet.
Laurel.
Monster.
Laurel.
Bye.
Laurel. 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 Laurel.
Okay, I think we finished.
Glitched. I done a glitched. Glitched.
I'll bring it
no.
Laurel.
Oh, thank you. Woo. Okay, cool. Good. Sweet. Cool. We all done?
I think so. Hopefully we don't have to call this a third time.